Welcome to Big Brave Business. This is a podcast built on the belief that you can create absolutely anything for yourself. Whether it's a dream job or a dream life, it's all possible for you.
I'm Amanda Nelson, a virtual assistant and digital marketer, and that's Sarah Heater, podcast producer and strategic consultant. Each week, we will share insights from working with dozens of clients, stories of how we got where we are, and encourage you to see us as your new business besties.
So grab a cup of coffee and let's talk being brave in business. Welcome back to Big Brave Business.
Ooh, we are back.
I'm Sarah.
Hey, and I'm Amanda, and we're back.
So we wanted to do a little love thing today on the podcast because we've mentioned it before, but one of, if not the absolute favorite for both of us, tool that we use in our business is Canva. So we wanted to just have a little love thing for Canva today and talk about the ways we use it and the things that we love the most about it. Amanda, you are Canva obsessed. You talk about it all the time and your eyes light up like a girl with a schoolgirl crush whenever you talk about Canva.
Yeah, I love it. How can you not love it? There's just so much to love about it. And I also think we have to talk about the fact that there are so many people that hate it. Like they hate the graphic designers hate it because to me, it's not graphic design. It's not graphic design. It's a tool. And whatever you need to create, you can create in Canva. It's amazing. I have made audiograms with it. I have made website template build outs from it, branding boards, social media graphics, obviously. There's just so much stuff that you can do in it that makes your life easier. And I know you and I have both said we would pay, and I still stand by this. If anybody from Canva is listening, I'd pay you triple what I pay you now with like no problem. No problem whatsoever.
I'm really glad I don't have to though.
I know.
Yeah. I think you make a good point though. Maybe we can start with things Canva isn't good for.
Okay. You go first.
So one clear thing that doesn't work for me in Canva, which I wouldn't expect it to, is obviously I edit podcasts, which are usually audio only. I am not editing audio in Canva for sure. They've added some audio features where you can like put in voiceover tracks or you can use music, you can upload music. You know, they've added video and also some animation stuff, which we'll touch on in a bit here. But I definitely am not trying to do that. And also, I'm really not editing video in Canva. Like, using video clips in Canva, sure. Making a reel in Canva, maybe. But, like, video editing, that's just not going to be the thing.
Yeah. I have never edited a video like color correction or anything like that. But have I trimmed videos in Canva? Sure. But typically I use a different editor for like video editing and then I upload it into Canva if I'm going to use it for a template or social media or like I did this morning. I told you today before we got started recording, I have been making testimonial videos all morning long for a client who's doing a big launch, and I used Canva for all of those, but I clipped and edited and trimmed them outside of Canva and then I upload them into like her brand colors and used a laptop mock-up to put them in. You know, I've done those for you before for testimonials. So like I use that element for video editing, but never like, I still think there's a long way to go from it from an audio or a video standpoint.
Yeah, I just think it's not what it's for. And to your point about graphic design, I would say it's not a place to create original art. So like we mentioned on a recent episode that we had hired Jasmine from Brio to do our PodFox branding, and she designed original art for the logo. Like it's completely uniquely created. I don't think Canva is the place to do something like that.
No, it's not. I do think it's interesting how Canva has changed the landscape for extra income for people. Like using Canva to build out passive income, creating digital products is really interesting and popular right now. making designs in Canva and putting them in Etsy is really popular right now. There's just so many unique ways to use it. And I also loved the fact, and I know that people have strong feelings about this, but I love the fact that I get told all the time, oh, I use Canva. You know, my mom is like, oh, I used Canva the other day to make birthday invitations, you know, and I love the fact that it's accessible to so many people, but and the price point's accessible too. But I also think it's funny there, you can tell there's people that have been used, like for us, like we use Canva all the time. So our experience and the tools that we understand how to use, it's interesting to see people that are just tipping their toe into the water and using like, not even the pro account, just the basic account. And then you show them that you can like remove the background off of an image and you watch their mind just blow. It's my absolute favorite because there's so much to see and so much to do. And even you were telling me just last night that you found a new feature that I had not even heard of.
Yeah, so they just rolled out a whole bunch of new features this week, I guess, as part of, well, I think they just release new features all the time, but they did like a huge unboxing of some major, massive updates, and they announced them today, the day that we're recording this, not today, the day that this came out, in Canva Create. So they do a conference where they kind of announce big product unveilings in their kind of design suite, their visual suite. But today, which is the 23rd when we're recording this of March of 2023, who knows when you're listening to this? I'm like realizing, I mean, shoot, you could be listening to this a year from now and then you'll be like, oh my gosh, this is so outdated.
It's true.
But right now it's brand new. So there's a whole bunch of brand new stuff. There's creating your own animations. So animating your images is something that they had added relatively recently, where you could kind of do almost like old school PowerPoint style animations where text kind of flies in or bounces around, or, you know, a image fades in or out. And especially with being able to then create like a video clip of that, you could do a lot with that. But now they've added, you can take just like a static element and move it around and create your own animation. You can do like a plane flying in a, you know, wiggly pattern, or a bee flying in a wiggly pattern, or a ball bouncing and it leaves a like dotted line behind it, you know. So there's some really, really cool animation stuff that they're adding, and I think this is just the beginning. I also was really excited to see that they've upgraded their gradient option, because gradients are so in style right now and we use them a lot for PodFox. And gradients was something that was very limited in Canva. You pretty much had to use a gradient they already had, or you had to go create it in like Adobe Creative Cloud and then in either like Photoshop or Illustrator and then bring it into Canva. And that was frustrating because the gradient features in like Photoshop, Illustrator, even InDesign are so simple to be able to do so many cool gradient things, and that seemed like a big miss in Canva. So they added that. Now you can take any color and you can turn it into a gradient on different elements, and I'm so excited to play with that.
You do love a good gradient.
Well, it's very trendy right now, and that's one thing about the PodFox brand that I'm like, when gradients aren't as cool anymore, what are we going to do? But we'll just deal with it when we come to it. Brands update, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think they also have been adding a lot of AI. So I've been hearing a lot of stuff about this, and they've added even more that they unveiled today at Canva Create. But before we get to what they just added, I had already heard of like Canva Write, which could help you write copy, and you could import PDFs and then edit those PDFs in Canva. You mentioned the background removal tool, which you could actually already also do on both images and video, which is so cool. And it's so smart. And if it's not perfect, you can erase, which I really appreciate. Although I do find, again, if it doesn't do it well with the AI, then erasing to try to clean it up does not always work well. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, totally agree. And
something that's better in Photoshop.
It is better in Photoshop. I will say that I think that the tool that you can use to like delete some areas, or to like, if the background remover is not clear and you need to go back through with the little tool and make it cleaner. It is harder to do, in my opinion, in Canva than it is in Photoshop because the little tool is so hard. The little circle is so hard to like, even if you
Yeah.
make it small. But I will say something else that I love about Canva is that the CEO is a woman. Like, I love that. She's like incredible. If you ever look up anything about her, she's incredible. So it makes me even happier to be like singing the praises of such an
Yes, a
awesome,
woman-led
like,
business.
right? And it's so useful. It's helping so many people. It's so accessible.
Yeah.
I just love it. I love how easy it is. And I just love that the fact that it's like so many people are utilizing it to make money is just so exciting.
Yeah. And I think what you said earlier too about the different levels of kind of knowledge or technological comforts, I think that's so important because even though sometimes you can look at somebody who just uses a template and just plugs and plays, like you can look at a graphic and be like, yeah, this is Canva. Like this person is not a designer. They just pulled something from Canva and they really didn't do anything with it to make it their own. But designing graphics would be a big obstacle to running a business online. I think it's really nice to be able to give them some plug and play options just because I think decreasing that barrier to entry is always a good thing to give more people an opportunity to play in the space. But also, I think that for people like your mom who are not trying to use it to run an online business, they want to like make birthday invitations, you know, that is really neat to be able, especially a free account. And it works from any device, like your iPad, your phone, your computer, any kind of computer, just from a web browser, like, or a mobile app. It really
is.
amazing.
And I will say, there have been, speaking of birthday invitations, there have been many times that I've gone on to Etsy and I've bought a template and it immediately downloads to my Etsy. Not my Etsy. I've gone to Etsy, downloaded a template, and it goes to my Canva, and I can pop and play, customize it, put the dates of a birthday invitation on it or whatever. And it's just so convenient. You print out what you need. There's very little waste, which I love. Nothing's worse than when you're like trying to throw a party and you end up having to print 50 invitations and you only needed 12. You know, I mean, like everything is just so. I can't say enough wonderful things about it. I did not get to listen to or watch the live webinar today for Canva Creates, but you watched a little bit of it. What was your favorite? Give me all the news.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing that I'm most excited about is that gradient feature because it's just so simple and easy. But they've also added some intuitive kind of like photo editing. So when you have an image or a photo that you want to mess with, before they had all these like sliders where you had like maybe 7 different features you could, you know, change like the saturation or the blur, or I can't even think of what else was in there. Now they have like 100 things that you can change and tweak. And it's intuitive of if you want to do that to the whole image, just the background or the foreground. So you could like blur the background and keep the foreground really crisp and clear, or you could make it like black and white in the background but color in the foreground, or you know, these different levels of control over editing your graphic that previously a tool like Canva just could not do. If you wanted to do something like that involved, you were going to have to go to Adobe. So I think that's really, really neat. They also have something I'm really intrigued to try, which was one of the things I had seen yesterday that I messaged you about, which is the Magic Eraser and the Magic Edit. So you can remove parts of an image with the Magic Eraser. Like the example that they have on their site is like if it's a picture of an open-faced peanut butter and jelly, you could erase one of the pieces of bread in the image and keep the rest of the image intact, which is really awesome. And then they also have Magic Edit, which is one of the things I had messaged you about. The example like image in Canva, which I had messaged to Amanda last night, is a picture of like a daisy, and they switched the flower in the picture to a rose. So the rest of the picture is exactly the same, but it just switched out the type of flower. And when you look at the page for Canva Create where they like unveil Magic Edit, they actually have an example of like this purple teapot, and they just highlighted over it with the magic edit tool, and they changed it. They typed in what they wanted it to be, which was like purple, a bunch of purple flowers, and it changed the teapot to a bunch of purple flowers, and the rest of the image is completely intact. Like, it's really, really wild. And then one more thing that I'm particularly excited about, although of course they announced a ton of stuff, is beat sync. So I mentioned that they're doing more with like video and animation, and that one of the things I might do in Canva is create reels. And I think this will be particularly cool for reels or TikTok, although I don't think this would perform as well on TikTok. But regardless, if you set a music track and you want to have a bunch of different like images that come in and out, or text that comes in and out and moves along with the beat of the song, instead of you having to do that manually, you can just put all of the images that you want in different like slides, and then you hit the magic like beat sync button, and it will adjust the lengths so that all your different elements meet the beat of the song.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And what they used it for, of course, was at the presentation. They were like, check this out. So also if you were doing a live event or a conference or something like that, but anything you wanted to do kind of a commercial, so to speak, like if we watch commercials on TV, that's what they're like. If they have a music track, like, you've got people dancing, it's shifting from scene to scene. There's maybe text flying in, or, a price that pops up or whatever. And it's all to the beat of the music. And this will sync magically using
So
AI.
cool.
So I think that's going to be really cool too.
That makes me so happy. That's awesome. And I love they're continually trying to get things better, like continually making things better for the people that are using it. I love it so much. So I think before we wrap up, I would love to know, do you have any unique ways that you have seen people use Canva to make money?
Well, you were talking earlier about creating digital products, and I think this is so interesting because when I initially started using Canva, I was really only using it for social media graphics or like cover photos to things. And it's been around 10 years now. It's come a really long way. Previously, I would have used InDesign for like print if I was going to make a guidebook or a workbook or a handout or something like that. I would do that in Adobe InDesign before I would do it in Canva. But now Canva is just becoming more and more and more and more a tool that is just as usable. That's a like hot take, but just as usable as Adobe InDesign. And I really feel like for creating, PDFs and ebooks and things like that, that's an easy way to use Canva to make money.
That's a great point. I have heard recently with a client, I think I actually mentioned this to you a couple of weeks ago, but I have a couple of clients who are in the nutrition, dietitian, fitness space, and they are all in a monthly paid subscription, which it's very interesting. I think what this company is doing, or this small business, it's a woman-owned business that they go through. What she's doing is not necessarily unique, but what I think is unique about it is the model that she's using, which is so smart. And I don't hear a ton of people doing this, but what she's done is she has gone into Facebook and she has found a group that is looking for social media graphics. So for instance, she got in on this group. She's got like 50 women who all use her Canva templates on a monthly basis. Every single month she creates in Canva 30 graphics. She writes out the captions for you. She highlights the places that you need to put your personal touch. She sends you reel prompts. And then she also creates like a social media challenge. And her quote unquote bonus to those people are she creates a digital ebook. So like a recipe book or 5 exercises to try this month, etc. She does it all in Canva. And then she has a Google Doc where she puts all the captions, she puts the link to all the graphics, and you go in and you edit them for yourself. That is a business, and she does it every single month. So at the middle of each month, you get a brand new set of graphics to get loaded up for the following month so that you don't have to think about it. And I don't hear of anybody doing that specifically for that same kind of vehicle of, there's tons of people making graphics in Canva and selling them, but how many people are doing it specifically for a certain niche? I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I know another membership that does something similar as well. I think that is a great suggestion. And similarly to that, people who create brand guidelines, so any kind of brand designers or branding experts, marketing people, even if you have like a corporate job, not necessarily like entrepreneurship world, if you run a marketing department or something like that. So previously, we all have these like brand guidelines, either PDFs or like a physical book that lays out how the logo is meant to be used and how the fonts are meant to be used, how these different assets are meant to be used. And you have to like kind of use that for reference when you're making anything. And even with those documents, people's interpretations can sometimes be a little different or they don't quite follow it. And it can be kind of hard to control like branding. So now Canva also just unveiled, you can actually go ahead and install, well, like you have to set it up, but you can set up brand guidelines directly in Canva. So it's interesting because you and I just did this with Podfox where I made templates just as a design and I put notes, like a comment on the actual design to you and explained this is how I did this and this is, you know, what I want it to look like. But instead of doing it that way, you can actually set in your brand suite where you have your fonts and your color palette set, which by the way, you could do that already if you didn't know that. You can set your color palette and your fonts for your brand, but now you can also save photos, elements, and you can like actually write notes about this is how we do and don't use the logo. This, you know, all of that stuff can be synced right in there so that when people go to make designs, that's all in there. So if you're offering any kind of branding or marketing package to clients, whether that's Canva templates that you make for them or web design, or if you're like building brands for people, offering that Canva brand suite setup is something that I would really recommend because lots of people are going to turn to Canva for their graphics and your hard work on this beautiful brand that then they're going to totally tarnish the way they use it. If you feel really protective of that you created, going ahead and loading it into Canva for them so that it makes it really easy for them to use, I think is just a no-brainer. So that's another cool way you could probably
Well,
make
there you
money
go.
using
I don't
Canva.
even think we needed to do a 3 things that we love this week because I feel like we just gushed for the past 20 minutes.
We love all the things about
really,
Canva.
really do. Come find us at Big Brave Business on Instagram and tell us how you use Canva. Tell us all the things that we didn't mention that you love and what you loved the most from the new webinar today.
Yeah, there's seriously so much to it, and there's so much we didn't even touch on. And there's stuff we definitely find just clicking around because either it's new or they moved it, or we just have never used that feature before because they're constantly adding stuff. So tell us what you love. Tell us your favorite ways to use Canva. Let's start a Canva Love Fest over on Instagram, and we'll meet you over there at Big Brave Business.
We'll see you guys soon.